Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. I'm sorry I've been gone for a while, friends. I had to take some personal time off, some stuff had happened, and yeah, I just needed a little bit of time, but I'm back, and yeah, glad to be back. Anywho, we have 4 stories today out of the entitled Parent subreddit. Let's begin. Our first story is by Stargazer728. Christian, holier than thou, EM is back. This time, I'm not so nice. To give some background, every Christmas, my wife and I do our own version of Secret Santa, where we find some family in our church or surrounding community that is very financially strained and might not be able to afford Christmas gifts that year, and buy gifts for everyone in that family. This has been the 4th year we've done this, and quite frankly, it's a very rewarding experience to deliver a holiday joy to a family in need. We mainly find our families secretly by asking church friends if they might know of a family that is going through a very tough time financially. Most of the time, the family either knows a Secret Santa is helping them that year, or they are completely blindsided Christmas morning with special delivery. Although due to COVID, we plan to load the presents on their doorstep and ring the doorbell as we get the family's reaction from the sidewalk. Now, onto the story. We got our information for 2 separate families that needed help this year, and my wife and I were planning which gifts to buy for both families, gift budgets, etc. During our brainstorming session, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. When I picked up, it was a kid's voice informing me that, "My mom would like to talk to you." I could hear the kid hand the phone to someone else. And then I was greeted with the familiar voice, the EM from the story, aka my friend's aunt. EM. "Hello, OP." Me, eyes growing wide and silently cursing under my breath. EM. "What do I owe the pleasure?" EM. "Well, I'm glad you asked. My nephew mentioned during a Zoom call earlier today that you were buying Christmas gifts for random strangers this year, and how commendable your charitable giving was." Me, mildly flattered at my friend's words, but at the same time, wishing that he kept his mouth shut. "Well, he is correct, I am doing Secret Santa this year." EM. "Perfect. That's why I called you." Me. "You know of a family in need?" EM. "Yeah, me!" One thing I should point out about the EM that I learned from my friend is that she used to be married to a rich guy whose family owned some oil fields. From what I understand, they got divorced and she didn't get ownership of any of the family assets, but despite this, she still stuck the guy with alimony and gained 70% custody of their child. Back to the story. Me. "You need help?" EM. "Yes. You see, I really wanted to get my son a PlayStation 5 for Christmas, but since my gift budget is already strained this year, I figured you could step up and help bring him some holiday joy." Me. Already suspecting that something is very suspicious here. "What do you mean your gift budget is already strained?" EM. "Well, my car broke down and I decided to buy a new one." Me. "Well, that's unfortunate. Hopefully your new car is reliable." EM. "It sure is. I decided to treat myself to an early Christmas gift and bought one of those brand new Cadillac Escalades." I just so happened to have my Chromebook in front of me during the call, so I used it to look up the manufacturer's suggested retail price for a brand new Escalade, which had a starting price at over $75,000. At that moment, a very cold anger had started to arise in me, much akin to my previous encounter with the EM. Here she is, trying to take advantage of me, again, just to get a PlayStation 5 for her kid while she blows her money on a Cadillac. She could have bought a much cheaper car, could still have money left over for multiple PlayStation 5s, and could still have money left over to buy gifts for multiple families. My wife could see that I was not in a good mood and looked concerned as I walked into my office. I may have been nice to the EM before, but this time I was going to give her a piece of my mind. EM. "So back to the PlayStation 5. If you can get him one with a few games." Me cutting her off. "No." EM. "Excuse me?" Me. "I will not be buying your son a PlayStation 5 for Christmas." EM. "But he really wants one. Are you going to deny a kid his wish?" Me. "Let me tell you something about my charitable giving. It goes to families that barely have enough to get by at the end of the day, are staring down the barrel of choosing between rent or Christmas gifts, not entitled people like you who have poor spending habits." EM. "Why, I never. How dare you?" Me. "Look who's talking. You obviously have more than enough money to purchase an SUV that costs more than a blue-collar income, yet here you are trying to bum a free PlayStation 5 off of me, all because your budget is strained? If your budget is strained, then why don't you sell your overpriced car and buy one yourself?"
EM, you should watch your tongue. You know, the Bible says that younger generations should be subject to their elders.
This pushed me over the edge. At this point, I was fuming and decided it was time to burn this bridge with the EM. Me. You know what? Maybe if you spent more time actually reading the Bible instead of thumping it all the damn time, you'd actually be more thoughtful of people other than yourself. Hell, maybe you'd actually be doing a Secret Santa. Don't ever call my phone again. Clearly you're not somebody worth wasting my time on. I'd wish you a Merry Christmas, but maybe even that's too good for you. I hang up. I blocked her number and proceeded to text my friend to make sure his aunt never contacted me again. Oddly enough, I didn't need to take time to calm down. Telling the EM off was actually quite cathartic. TLDR, EM finds out that I'm doing a Secret Santa this year and tries to take the opportunity to get a free PlayStation 5 out of me. I decide it's time to burn that bridge. Our next story is by Hana I Am. EM wants me to drop a student to tutor her son. It's been a while since I posted because I've been working from home, and being an online tutor has limited my contact to entitled parents. However, one made it through the trenches to come and bother me. As I said, I am an online tutor. Pandemic, yay! So it's actually easier for me to have back-to-back students. However, due to the number of students and after-school time slots, I had to limit the number of spaces and therefore students. In the UK, we just finished mock exams for year 11s, 15 to 16-year-olds. As predicted, due to missed school, a lot of them didn't do so well. So I've had calls from concerned parents about helping their kids. I tell them that I'm currently fully booked and may be adding more sessions in January of 2021, so I'll put them on a waiting list. 99% of parents appreciate this and know that they came to me too late. Except one. She demanded that I find a slot for her son who's failing English. That because she knows my family, she should be higher on the waiting list. She actually said she knew my parents, as if I'm not a person in my 30s running my own business. That I should drop one of the other students for her son. She heard I also have international students, and they are obviously not as important as her son, since he needs to do his GCSEs. So do they just have international ones. She ranted for 15 minutes on the phone, tried to guilt trip me, and wouldn't let me talk. Finally, when she had tuckered herself out, I told her, since she couldn't respect me as a professional, we wouldn't be able to work together, and I wished her the best in the future. She is now blocked and apparently telling other parents that I refuse to help Somali kids because I'm an outsider. Even though I'm Somali and the whole conversation was in Somali, and she claims to know my family? If you're enjoying the content so far, please put a heart emoji in the comments section down below. Our next story is by Terrible Wombat. EM thinks that her child is an exception to the no children allowed rule for a live audio recording. For context, I used to work for a church as an audio technician and just general hand for weekend services and things. A few years ago, the church pulled enough money together to record a live worship session to put on sale. It was a really important thing that had been in the work for months, and in case you don't know, is really expensive to do. So the decision was made to not allow children under the age of 12 or 13. I can't remember exactly, into the recording service under the logic that kids younger can't be quiet the entire night, with the entire crowd being microphoned with a ton of microphones as well. It was advertised as the rules well in advance. Me, standing at the main entrance welcoming people and explaining what to expect, sees her walk up with her kids. "Excuse me, ma'am, but children under a certain age aren't allowed in service tonight. We have activities and an alternative arrangements ready for them in another building." EM, what? Me explains again while getting stared at. EM, but my kids are really mature and grown up. They're fine, don't worry, trying to end the conversation. Me, still being somewhat polite, "Ma'am, that could probably be true, but if I let your children in, I have to let the other children in. And any extra noise could ruin the recording. I have to apply the rules evenly." EM, I don't care about other people's kids. I want my kids with me. Sees my supervisor walking to the door to the audio booth next to me. "Hey, supervisor, OP won't let my kids come in. You know they're fine, right?" Supervisor, "No. You know the rules for tonight." He's right, they can't come in. EM, looking at both of us, fuming. "Well, if they can't come in, then we're going home." Supervisor and me? Well, certainly that's your right. EM storms off with her embarrassed kids, and we went on with the night without a care in the world. Side note, the CD turned out great and the church raised a lot of money for charity with it. If I recall correctly, it was supporting a local drug and alcohol addiction treatment centers. Edit. Shout out to the mad lads trying to dunk on me for a fundraiser for a drug and alcohol treatment center into something nasty because religion, I guess? Anyway, great job in missing the point. Our final post is by Noised Hens. Karen gets sweet instant karma for messing with trees that aren't hers. I was not directly involved in the interaction, but it did occur on the same street that I belong to, and the tree could be seen from my house as it was less than 100 feet away. So some brief backstory to understand the direness of Karen's situation. Karen, along with her daughter, owns a house on a street along with 7 other people, including me. The street is somewhat private. Although it isn't gated, it shares many resources and services that set it apart from the rest of the community. Basically, it was originally an empty piece of land in the middle of already existing neighborhood and was bought privately by a group who built the houses and sold them. For these reasons, the street has an HOA representative, Homeowners Association, and they share things like lawn maintenance and street repair costs. For example, the street split the cost for repairing stuff like street lights, and the people who mow the lawns do the entire street at the same time. Karen and her daughter are rarely seen on this small street. They instead rent their house out to newcomers every few months. I've only seen them in person a few times since I moved here. On their most recent return a few days ago, they decided to have the tree out in their front yard trimmed down before the next tenant arrives. Unfortunately, these trees belong to the street and she has no jurisdiction tampering with it, and she knows it. She made a half-hearted attempt to call the HOA board, and when they didn't reply right away, she took the initiative to cut the tree down to her desires. This morning, a group of workers came in trucks with loud power tools to cut several branches off this large tree. The Indian dude, ID, came out first to complain, and later came the old lady, OL. They both have been living here for a long time and understand the rules clearly. The conversation was distant from my house, especially since I chose not to go outside or join the argument, but went along these lines. Indian dude: hey, you can't cut down that tree. Karen:
Well, it's on my property.
Indian dude: actually, it's not. Tell them to stop cutting it. You need to contact the HOA first. Karen:
I did, and they didn't respond. So it's not a big deal if I just give it a trim, okay?
Old lady: any changes affect the value of the entire street, every house on it, and you have to stop. Karen:
Oh my god, it's just a tree. Just give me a break, okay?
For those that don't understand, the entire street sort of has a common theme to it, and every house has a similar design, and each having a tree as part of that design. Stripping the mature tree down to a couple of branches completely ruins the look of the entire street. Indian dude walks up to the workers who are almost finished. Guys, please stop now. Karen steps in front of Indian dude.
Hey, back off.
Indian dude puts his hand on her shoulder to push her away. Karen:
Stop being aggressive.
This goes on for about 30 minutes. The entire time, Karen is being extremely rude, interrupting people, and basically whining incessantly. Indian dude, old lady, and other neighbors watching knew they couldn't do anything without contacting the HOA first. They certainly didn't want to touch her, and they couldn't do anything with the workers because they were hired by Karen. This entire time, her daughter didn't say anything and just stood in the doorway of her house. The workers continued with the tree and were finished in no time. About an hour passes when Indian dude and old lady return with news from the HOA. It was true that Karen couldn't touch the tree, and everyone knew it, but what Karen didn't know was that the consequences were extremely straightforward and relentless. When they began to explain to Karen her remaining options, she had a witchy smirk of victory on her face, but it didn't take long for it to be completely wiped away. HOA policy dictates that she has to completely replace the tree, which means that she needs to hire people to come and dig the tree out, pay for a new tree, and pay for it to be planted. Pay for the lawn, which will inevitably inevitably be torn up as the tree is being placed. If she does not comply, her house will have a lien put on it and no longer be considered a part of the extension of our private street. For those who aren't fluent in real estate terms, like me, this means Karen cannot sell, rent, refinance her property until these conditions are met. Even if she complies right away, her new tenant will be delayed by at least a week or more while the tree is being dug up. This is such a sweet and fitting end to her entitled attitude. In total, she'll be set back thousands of dollars for essentially nothing except lacking consideration for those around her. I'm not entirely clear on the cost, but I expect it to be at least 10 grand. Moral of the story, don't mess around with trees. They have countless lawsuits and HOA strings attached to them, and don't be a jerk to your neighbors. Too long didn't read. Karen messes with a tree that belongs to the street. She gets an absolutely brutal and satisfying ultimatum. Edit. I reread my post and decided that I didn't do a good enough job, as I wanted to explain why Karen deserves her justice. I forgot to mention that she did flip everyone off and threaten to call her lawyer. She acted really childish overall and kept repeating the same phrase of something like, "You can't touch me, I did nothing wrong," over and over while interrupting people. Her daughter wasn't much better, but you can't really blame her for trying to defend her mother a little bit. She probably just didn't understand what her mother really did. Her daughter was like, "Stop shouting! Don't get so aggressive!" etc. Edit 2. After talking with some of my neighbors, it turns out Karen was a witch long before I moved here. A long time ago, there was a rule that you couldn't park your car on your driveway, which most people thought was really stupid. I think it's stupid too. The rule was set when the street was built because people wanted it to look nice or something. Apparently, Karen took this rule way too seriously and kept giving tickets to old lady's husband. I mean, come on. What a way to get to know your next door neighbor. Before long, the entire street voted the law out, 7-1. Guess who wanted to keep it? Karen also locked the back gate of the street closed and didn't give a key to anyone because she thought she was entitled to control who gets to use the community gate. Too bad I wasn't there for the argument because I could have had more of a transcript of what they said. Karen kept trying to change the subject and put all the blame on the old lady for letting her bamboo fall into her backyard. Old lady was sick that day, so what an a-hole for arguing with a sick old lady. I'd also like to mention the trees. Yes, trees. I realized after looking closer at her yard, she cut were 2 cypress trees and a deciduous tree that grows red seeds and hard pods that I forgot the name of. The cypress trees she cut were towering and magnificent. She trimmed them down halfway and they will never regrow because both were at least 20 years old. That's all I can remember. Thanks for reading. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit post will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my videos, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.